the universe will let us know the
Yes.
direction we need to go.
And the
Very
fact
good.
that, Lisa, you and I absolutely trust that,
Mhm.
because it's the same reason that we're here in the first place, is because there was a magnetism, there was a calling, there was a okay, move, and you and I both got that at the same time.
Yeah. Welcome to the Let's Be Real podcast, genuine conversations for authentic living. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Lisa Allshafer, empowerment life coach and author of Journey with an Angel.
And I'm Sondra Pariser, health and wellness entrepreneur, more importantly, truth seeker and truth speaker.
And today is a special episode because this is our season 1 wrap-up episode, grand finale.
Woo!
This is episode number 24, and we thought we deserved a break. So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back with some new stuff. But today we really just wanted to share with you our appreciation for everyone who has supported us, listened to us, watched us on YouTube, and so forth, and just kind of our experiences of what we've gleaned from this, from doing this podcast, and also interacting with some of you, some in our comment section, which we're going to share some of those, as well as outside in our personal lives, because we have a lot of people who share with us in that way as well. And so, Sondra, why don't you start with kind of what's been your experience in doing these 24 episodes now of the Let's Be Real podcast?
I was thinking about this because you and I were like, you know what? I think it's time for us to take a pause and do some integration. And as I reflect back on the months that we've been doing this, we started in October. I can't remember when our first one launched, but we actually started in September. It launched in October. And now here we are into April.
Right.
And so much has changed for both of us that it really is an organic time for us to go, wait a second. We kind of were flying by the seat of our pants. We knew there's messages that we wanted to share with people and to talk about. But as you and I kept going through the weeks, life is happening too. And so we also, just like anyone else, life is in full swing. And there's this part that when you're going through heavy stuff, in all the topics that we've covered are really heavy, very reflective components of the personality that, the body that we're in. So it's a perfect time for us to stop and integrate. And maybe it's time for y'all to stop and integrate and maybe re-watch some of our podcasts to pick out your favorites and what you've learned along the way.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of favorites, our launch was our biggest one, the most views, and but the patterns was the Pearl method, and the patterns video or episode was our second one that was the top viewed one, which was really cool. It actually we thought we were going to go viral, in our world, not in,
Yeah.
millions world, but yeah, so because it really, the
Came out
views
of nowhere.
came in fast and,
Yeah.
and so forth. So, I think that's part of what we're learning. We're both good at coming in and, sharing and talking and teaching and coaching and all that, but we are not experts in how to market all this stuff. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking at, is how to really get more exposure. We're talking about creating a different format and how we're going to go into season 2. So after our break, which we're not going to give a predetermined time because we're not sure what that is, but it's not going to be that long, but it'll give us a little break because it is a lot of work to do this. And but we, that's part of what we're here for, is to really bring more higher vibrational information, helpful information to help people live a more authentic life and to live their best life and become their best self. So, but bringing on guests,
I'm excited about that part.
I think that'll be fun. It adds another dimension to what we're doing, and other authors and perhaps coaches and people who are also looking to make an
Podcasters
impact.
and
Podcasters as well, yes, for sure. So we're excited about that and what that's going to look like. I know for me, because I've shared this in previous podcasts, for me it was just good to get out there. I think there's a lot of people in their worlds that are what did they say? Hidden treasures, whatever, kind of like undiscovered gems or so forth. And I know there's a lot of people out there, some who listen to the podcast as well, who you just don't, the people don't know that you're there until do something like this and are able to share their talents to the world. And I think that's, part of what this has brought for you and I is, hey, we're here. We've got some, good stuff to share, and hopefully, at least through the feedback we've gotten, it has helped a lot of people, and that's our sole purpose, is to provide our gifts to the world, and hopefully inspire you to share your gifts with the world as well. But it takes work, and it takes commitment, and it takes persistence and all sorts of stuff in order to do that. So even inspiring other people to maybe start their own podcast.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that, you and I are just two people out there in the world that really genuinely care about people, and through our experiences, which we shared with everybody, sharing with people where you are flawed, or experiences that you've gone through that are overwhelmingly painful, is really not easy to do. To say over open lines, I've struggled with, cigarettes and alcohol and like whatever. It's, they're not easy topics, which to be vulnerable to the internet is kind of is a tricky thing, which is why integration right now I think is so important, at least for you and me, Lisa, because there is a very hungry world out there for what we're trying to do. And there was a podcast that you and I can't remember which one it was. And I just want to say, obviously the opening podcast would have been sort of the biggest, most viewed, because, everybody in our periphery that wanted to see what are they up to, obviously took a peek into our original podcast. But the Pearl method really was a surprise, at least to me, because I thought, wow, we had so many other podcasts that were, and again, go back and listen to them while we're on our little break right now, because there's a lot in there that personally my favorite was, aligning with your true north and what that looks like. And that was the most fun for me, because that's really where I feel like my personal power center, it came through. What was your favorite, Lisa? Do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. They all had their own unique energy to them, but I know there was just some, I don't know offhand which ones they were, but some we came off them and we're like, ooh, that was good, and just like, because you can feel it. Where, some of them were like, kind of finding our feet, in the presentation of the information anyway. But ultimately it's, when you find that flow, and sometimes they would come more in the middle of the podcast, or sometimes the flow would come at the end of the podcast, and sometimes it started out right out of the gate in the beginning of the podcast. But that's just all part of our experience in learning this whole model of presenting information and so forth. I mean, I know we're just talking, but there is actually a structure to it and a way to present it. So, but yeah, there was a lot of them. Yeah. I like talking about aligning with the divine. I always like that subject. The 3 levels of consciousness, I liked that one. I liked the pattern one as well. A lot of these subjects are basically, coaching sessions, just in a different kind of a format. That's really what I see them as, is, coaching sessions. And even though it's not one-to-one coaching like I do with people, but, group coaching I do as well. And what happens in group coaching is you get side coaching, which means as we talk about certain principles or whatnot, or one person's getting coached, then other people are getting coached as well. And that's, as you were sharing your experiences and then having, your own reflection on it, and then my reflection on it, that other people who might have similar experiences also get the benefit of the side coaching, because they're listening in, kind of like a coaching session to some degree.
Absolutely. And this is where we really want people to hey, take this or take that or take whatever moves you or resonates with you, something simple and practical, and implement this into your own personal healing journey, which we're all on. And kind of coming back to, for me, why taking a break right now is just, it's really a healthy thing to do. So you and I can come back and we can be stronger and, and better and more organized and have our content a little more cohesive so that it comes off much better for whoever's listening, even if it's you moms, both of our moms, hi. So, this has been, from, if I'm just looking at me personally, from September through April, I am just, it's like, how many layers can we peel back of Sondra? It's many, they're still going. And the more I continue down this path, the podcast has been so part of the journey.
Yeah.
Of vulnerability, humility, and a level of rawness. And not that I ever want to stop that. It's just sometimes I'm going through something and picking apart old patterns. And when you have, I just don't think that there's any life right now that anybody lives that is unscathed. Trauma is a thing, and everybody's different. So my trauma would be somebody else's no trauma, and their trauma might not even blip on me at all. But we all have these pockets of things that trigger us into an emotional response. And for where I'm personally trying to get is not having better control over my emotional responses. You can't control the world outside of you, but you can control the world inside of you. And I know that is like way thinking, but it's so true. And the more I play around with that, the more I just need some time for integration.
Yeah. Well, it's, just 24 weeks in a row. It's, I have a new respect for podcasters, especially video podcasters, because video editing is much more intensive than audio editing, just audio. And so, for those who, we don't have, people we're sending the stuff out to, right? We're doing it in-house. So it's really a labor of love, and that's fine. It's a labor of love. But ultimately, I definitely, for some of the, especially these higher end podcasts, where they have people in person, and oh my goodness, that's
They
a whole
have
nother
stage sets. They
that's
have
a stage
professional
set.
editors. They have,
Yeah,
and good for them. But we're just
yeah,
starting out now. Not to say it won't be that way, but, and Lisa, I just want to say hats off to you, because, one podcast takes you how many hours?
it takes about 10 hours a week, including the recording part. Yeah, it takes about 10 hours a week, and then posting, on the social media and finding the thumbnail and, all that. But yeah, so it's about 10 hours a week. I've kind of averaged it out as of that. And, but again, I love what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's worth it. But again, at some point we will probably see how everything goes, and then find other ways, because that's not really where even though I'm good at editing, it's not where my life purpose lives and all that. So, I want to make sure that I'm really focusing my time on, the more purposeful part of what I'm here for, and, obviously what you're here for. And you're going into some things as well, with your Vedic astrology, and, just, as we continue to amp up our skill sets on not just providing a podcast, but marketing a podcast and getting it out there and getting exposure. And I think one of the things that'll really benefit us is having guests on, because it'll provide more of a variety and a whole nother level of perspective on different subjects. And perhaps some of those people that we bring on as guests have their own podcast, and then we can swap podcast guesting, and I know that's a good way to get out there, because as they're on our podcast, people from our audience sees them and vice versa. If we go on their podcast, especially ones that are, just trying to get off the ground and so forth, like we are. And
Yep.
hopefully that, well, the universe will let us know the
Yes.
direction we need to go.
And the
Very
fact
good.
that, Lisa, you and I absolutely trust that,
Hmm.
because it's the same reason that we're here in the first place, is because there was a magnetism, there was a calling, there was a okay, move, and you and I both got that at the same time.
Yeah.
And so now here we are, and I can see, and again, you and I've said this, like, start a podcast. Everybody needs to hear. Now, it's taken 10 hours a week on your part, however many hours a week on my part.
Yeah.
I have 2 children, I have a husband, I have a business, you do too. So this is time that it takes away from us. So now, if you don't have that kind of time, don't add that pressure to your workload. But I believe flooding the internet with positive messages is how we're going to truly make a difference in this world, no
Yeah.
matter what. Whatever the message, make sure it's, in the highest and best good of all involved. And I have no doubt, when you and I, at the same time, you're like, we should talk about bringing guests on. I'm like, yes, I have a list, right? So, and on that list, just like our course said, have your, I'm so afraid, but I want to, they're on my list, and I have my list, and I'm not going to say who my list is because it's mine. I mean, I'll tell you, Lisa, on the side. But these are things that I'll manifest along the way. And it's because their messages have helped me. And so everybody starts out as right here, right now.
Yeah.
And we have been blessed, Lisa, honestly, like, let's be real, genuine conversations for authentic living. All of what you have is your skill set. Your skill set was, I already know how to do this. I know how to, get it out to the podcast world and the Spotify and YouTube and Rumble. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that. And not that I won't learn. I don't want you sitting there with the pressure of, 10 hours a week is a lot of time, especially when we're in our purpose. And now is the time to really for the highest and best of all involved. So this should be a whole lot of fun. I've learned a lot.
And I've really enjoyed working together. We, even though we've known each other for so long, but we've never worked together,
Right.
in a this type of a setting, right? So I've really enjoyed that. I think it's I think it's bonded us that much more.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard
Oh
not
my
to when
gosh,
you're spending so much
Lisa,
time. Yeah.
I don't even know what podcast it was that I showed up so raw, beat up, swollen, and crying. And I'm like, I can't even believe I'm doing this. But we did,
Hmm.
because we committed to the no matter what. And that has been fun.
Yeah.
That has been fun. And a lot of growth. I'm showing up not because of the people that are listening mostly, but just because it's what we said we would do.
Hmm.
We gave our word to each other, and you're my trusted, beloved friend.
Yes.
I just think it's really been neat that we've been able to hold each other's confidence while being overwhelmingly vulnerable. Who knew that we could do that? That's pretty layered. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and because we're coming together for such a higher purpose, and we were divinely guided to do this. It just again creates a synergy that we wouldn't have individually. It's the combination of you and I together that I think brings really the magic to this podcast. So that again, some people might resonate more with one than the other, but eventually it just becomes this nice blend, and I think that really does provide the most magical part of it all is the blend of you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now where we go from here, I'm really pretty excited about it. We're in the springtime. We pretty much just entered into the springtime, and March wasn't that long ago, and then we have April and May, and springtime, spring cleaning. I keep thinking about just kind of taking a break for you and I, and us both at the same time going, it's time for a break. Like, literally, at the same time, like, oh, I'm so relieved.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
which
we even talked about, okay, because I definitely, I wanted to end on an even 24, right? And I think, well, let's think of one more thing we can talk about, on that 24th. And you said, let's just do this. Let's just do what we're doing right now. Let's wrap it up. It doesn't have to be a teaching subject or any of that, just kind of our,
let's
our
be
own, just
real.
authentic, experience of it all. I also want to share, I grabbed some of the top comments in our, from the podcast that people have left. We've gotten a lot of support and feedback from people outside of, the comments and so forth, which we all really, we appreciate those. But I just wanted to grab some from the comments this morning. And I really want to give a shout out to both Marcy and Anna Lee. They're our top commenters.
Anna Lee and Marcy.
Yeah, so we love you both. Thank you for taking the time to share on so many of the different, episodes and so forth. And I wanted to share some of those. So here's some of what Marcy left throughout the different episodes. This is what Marcy shared. This podcast has been so helpful to me. It's so real, and I am picking up something new each time I listen. And another one, oh wow, do I need to hear this tonight? I used the word resistance instead of blocked. Oddly, that was a big light bulb moment. I really appreciate you helping things make sense, even as simple as one word. And another one, I'm loving these messages tonight. I think I'm going to use my 369 for flow to keep me vibing high with the divine. That was your process, Sondra, the 369. And then just this morning, she left one on the one that we posted this morning. Dang, the first 2 minutes have already explained so much.
Marcy.
So that was awesome. Anna Lee left some things as well, some nice comments. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make in society is, as you touched on, not preparing kids properly for disappointment, but also not preparing adults for disappointment. Better that we know to expect disappointment throughout life and learn how to handle it. And so I love these comments as well because, she's been working with me for some time, which she shares in the comments, and she could be a coach in her own right. And so, just like you, Sondra, she's just been so deep into the work, and I've seen, so much growth and transformation, and she's a beautiful, beautiful soul. So, another one she left is letting go of the majority of my judgment has been one of the best things that has come from working with Lisa. I'm so much less judgmental and much more compassionate, and of course, that results in judging myself less. So kudos to you, Anna Lee. And then, oh, look, we have Alan. Your husband, Alan. He left a comment, spot on. Most of us are unaware of what patterns are or how they subconsciously run each of our shows. So we love it when people leave their own take on things and just, everyone has little nuggets of stuff to share. And so it's not just to comment on the podcast, but what is your contributing thought to the subjects that we talk about? We love those as well. Meg from Meg and David. We love you, Meg and David.
Oh, yes.
We know that they have been watching all of the podcasts in order on a weekly basis, and so have left this comment, fabulous video, great topic to get people moving into a better way of life, good balance of lessons and personal integration stories. And then the next one is from somebody I know, but it's user Yo9.
Yo9.
Yo9, and then a bunch of other letters and numbers. The power of presence is so important in human connection. That was the tail end of kind of a testimonial of working with me, so that was nice. And then I wanted to end on a lighter one, and this is Sean. This episode was a really big meatball. And then I'm going to watch again tomorrow before I level up to episode 4. So thanks for that, Sean, as well. And just thanks for all of you, whether you left a comment or not. We really do appreciate, your energy and your support. And we're so glad that what we've shared has been helpful to you and for all the support that you've shown us.
Absolutely. And Marcy, I just want to give a shout out to Marcy. Marcy's been with me in my shooting star class since the inception of the Shooting Star class. And she's just been an incredible support. And I don't think she really understands how supportive she is, because we don't really get the opportunity to share that with each other. But we're starting to all feel the cohesiveness in my astrology group, which is just really neat to feel that too. So to have her be like, I don't even remember how she found it, but she found it before anybody else. And
Yes.
I don't exactly talk about it. Maybe I should. And I certainly will as we move into
Yes, you
season 2.
should.
I will.
Yes, you should.
I've kind of been a little bit in process. So I'm hoping that this spring cleaning is what I'm calling it right now, for myself. There's a handful of things that I really want to get a handle on and really truly master. And it is because of comments it's because we've done this podcast that I'm getting such great feedback. I mean, even from my nail lady, Wendy, shout out. You always tell me, hey, every time I do my nails every 2.5 weeks, Wendy's coming in with some, great feedback on lots of topics that we've unpacked. So all the way across the board, this is really just a wonderful experience. And we're so grateful for all the comments. And thank you, Alan. And to the meatball comment, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and some of the comments I didn't get because we didn't figure out how to get me into the YouTube thing, but we've got that all figured out now. It's just been a really wonderful journey, and I look forward to coming back and sharing with everybody, how our spring cleaning for Sondra went, and y'all are going through it too. So it's not just Sondra or Lisa. It's everybody. We're all getting to kind of unpack these next layers of consciousness and reality according to the lens in which we view the world.
Yes. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you in season 2.
Awesome blossom. Over and out for now.